In our country, said Alice, you generally get somewhere else if you run very fast for a long time as we've been doing. A slow sort of country, said the Queen. Now here, you see, it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that.
The Council on Competitiveness was born in 1986, when the global economy was changing rapidly. Where the U.S. had been the undisputed world economic leader, Japan and Germany were on a path to overtake U.S. living standards and competitiveness. Foreign nationals were buying up U.S. assets. Our manufacturing base was shrinking. Our debt load, both personal and national, was growing. For the first time in decades, Americans began to question whether our country would be left behind, rendered a second-tier economy. John Young, a visionary business leader, conceived of the idea to create a National Council on Competitiveness, which would help develop a blueprint for stopping this slide. Young's simple yet highly innovative idea was to bring together leaders from industry, academia, and labor to study our economy and to design real-world game plans to meet the serious economic challenges we faced.
Well, in the mid-'80s, there were a lot of competitive problems. President Reagan actually convened a committee of about 36 people, of which I was chair, to take a deep look at what we could do to improve our nation's ability to compete.
John Young was a great leader of business. He saw the country was not looking at something very important, and he took it on himself to construct the council and had the wisdom to realize that competitiveness and now innovation, these are sort of all hands-on-deck activities.
We needed an organization that could own that agenda and come together periodically to freshen it and be the advocates when these particular issues came up, like trade policy or manufacturing success, and have some really knowledgeable, in-depth people.
The Council's first major project was to define and measure our nation's competitiveness with the rest of the world. It developed the Competitiveness Index, perhaps the Council's most important achievement, and one that has since been widely copied around the world. The index is a regular benchmark of how America and Americans are doing, both as compared to themselves over time and as compared to the rest of the competitive and global economy.
This was some path-breaking work on figuring out how to measure a nation's ability to compete, and that has carried on, and I think it's been very influential because it attracts a lot of public attention on how we're doing, and that it leads you to ask the question, well, what can we do to improve?
Our nation fundamentally rewrote the competitiveness game plan for the last decade of the 20th century by leveraging the power of new tools, most importantly, the Internet. The first Internet wave began here in the U.S., not abroad. The Council focused on the globalization of research and development activity and convened experts to study how to unlock the nation's information infrastructure.
One of my proudest moments once was we jointly hosted, we being MIT and the Council, the first National Innovation Summit. I ran into the late Congressman George Brown, who of course is a legend in issues like this, and he said to me, you know, that meeting you guys had up at MIT, that actually changed the whole way we viewed these things in Washington.
The technology boom transformed how the entire world thought about innovation. Other countries copied initiatives spearheaded by the Council, such as the Council's recommendations for public-private partnerships for innovation and technology clusters.
The Clusters of Innovation project, which I led, was the really first major effort of the Council to start to engage in regions, not just the country as a whole, to engage in state and local policy, not just national policy. And I think what that project really illustrates is that a lot of the strategic thinking needs to occur at the level of states and cities, and that if regions can build on their strength, find unique assets, build unique clusters in their region, and integrate all the public policy and private sector collaboration around those areas, that's really the tool to driving growth and prosperity at the regional level.
The U.S. economy suffered the loss of technology jobs to countries with educated workers willing to work for less. Technology now provided the tools for other nations to compete for jobs and business in the U.S., while never setting foot outside their borders. The Council found itself dealing with a race whose rules were changing yet again.
I don't think they play it all fairly, and they don't seem to have any rules in particular. At least if there are, nobody attends to them.
Here, Alice. To outcompute is to outcompete. The power of modeling and simulation through high-performance computing will be a competitive differentiator in the 21st century, allowing U.S. manufacturers to ask and answer previously unanswerable questions, envision and create previously unimaginable products and services.
We're in global competition now for every job we have in this country. We need people that are out there that can still work with their hands and get the job done, whether it's construction, manufacturing.
We have to compete in the world in terms of jobs. We have to compete in the world in terms of demand. We have to compete in the world in terms of skills. We have to compete in the world in terms of education.
Where just 5 years earlier, the Council was worried about how the nation would find enough skilled workers for technology jobs, it now focused on how our nation would even keep pace with its new global competitors. The need for constant reinvention in the face of perpetual global change, turbulence, and transition has been the one constant theme in the Council's 25-year existence.
Well, I think the Council is one of those interesting places that sort of has to reinvent itself or renew itself about once every 4 years, because the forces that drive the global economy change. The context of the Council today, an economy that's linked so tightly by the internet and through e-commerce and through digital communications and so forth, is quite different than the circumstances were back in the 80s or even the early 90s.
Innovation. Fuel the innovation.
Into innovation.
Now innovation.
Security.
Innovation.
Innovation.
Into innovation.
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 Well, the Council really created also this concept that the United States could not succeed unless we innovate.
As the Council moved into the first decade of the 21st century, its focus has turned on how to optimize our entire society for innovation, sustainability, resilience, and production. Concerns about energy, resource limitation, national debt, and climate change loom large. The Council's driving mission has been to foster innovation, the translation of new ideas into disruptive and positive economic change for every level of our society, from business to government to education.
For me, the central issues end up being, one is it deals with human capital, both the attraction, retention, development of it. There's a component of that that is related to really good education systems to grow our own, but it also is to opening up borders, visa applications, so that we can get the best and brightest and keep them here.
The rest of the world is catching up very, very quickly. I think we need to continue to focus on our research institutions, look at their missions, make sure that they are fulfilling those missions and continuing to develop the technologies and the information that's available that will allow us to remain competitive.
The next 25 years may well be the most important in the Council's history. The global economy is at a crossroads. In 2009, the world teetered on the brink of economic meltdown from which it has yet to recover. Sovereign debt is larger than ever. We need new ideas and solutions. The Council's work is needed more than ever.
Today, the challenges are broader. They're more complex, they're asymmetric, and they relate to not only innovation and competitiveness per se, but they also relate to energy security, homeland and national security.
Today we have an energy challenge, and the problem is more complex, requiring multiple paths to solution, renewable energies, more difficult additions to supply like deep gas, etc.
But what we learned in the course of an agenda for security, innovation, and sustainability around energy is that you have to make things, and that the innovation capacity of this country is dependent upon having a robust, deep industrial base.
Are we going to be able to continue to make things in the United States? Are we going to be able to continue to manufacture, create jobs? And I say that because I really think manufacturing is at the heart of the middle class. And the middle class is what has made America the great economy of the world over the last 100 years.
Before long, the U.S. will no longer be the biggest economy in the world. China will overtake the U.S. I'd say the challenges today are trying to reinvent the U.S. manufacturing base to be able to be very, very export-oriented, because the export part of our business is going to have to grow if we're going to continue to grow as an economy.
So what's the Council doing? 1, understanding the dynamics of these challenges. 2, putting together a policy agenda and acting on it. What we really believe, very importantly, is the United States has to have a more innovation-friendly capital cost structure and regulatory environment to compete and succeed globally.
One of the top 3 manufacturers in Japan said thank you. Thank you for the resilient study the Council on Competitiveness did, because I'm charged in my company to figure out what we do to avoid another Fukushima and how do we become more resilient. The Council on Competitiveness study from the United States is the best document I've seen to do that. I thought it was unique. We came full circle, that we started competing with Japan, and now we're actually helping them in a time of need.
The United States still is the premier country in the world and the premier economy leading the world economics. And I think that one thing stays the same from 1986 to 2011, and it's groups like the Council that are going to keep it that way.
Faster! Faster! Are we nearly there? Alice managed to pant out at last. Nearly there? Why, we passed it 10 minutes ago. Faster!
The race will never be over. We have to keep running faster to stay ahead. The Council on Competitiveness will be constantly working, helping ensure Americans have a better quality of life in an increasingly complex, interdependent world.
We want this nation to be the most attractive place in the world for high-value investment, to do high-value work, and create a better prosperous and secure nation for all our citizens, and make sure that we are global leaders for the common good.